So, War Thunder. I have been playing quite a bit of War Thunder Arcade Battle lately, and I do realise that a certain number of you are already turning your nose up in disgust because, you know, you're realistic battle snobs, and you think you're far too good for War Thunder Arcade. And, you know, there's a certain element of truth in that. You do tend to get a more, how shall we say, a more adult class of player in War Thunder Realistic Battle than you do in Arcade. That's undeniably true. But as long as you're pre-warned, as long as you understand when you hit the Arcade Battle button that you're going to run into the lowest class of humanity when you're playing Arcade Battle, and take steps to, you know, insulate yourself from the worst effects, you can have amazing amounts of fun in Arcade Battle. And, you know, there's certainly not all of them by any stretch of the imagination, but there's a certain class of realistic battle player who believe, for some strange reason, that because they've just chosen to fly realistic battle and they stay away from arcade, that somehow this makes them a better person. Well, if you fall into that category, I have a newsflash for you. Guess what? Realistic battle players who think they're better people than arcade battle players. You ready for this? Drum roll. Arseholes play realistic battles as well. I know, shocking, isn't it? But it is true. Not to the same degree that you get in arcade by any stretch of the imagination, but just the fact that you've chosen to play realistic battle and to not dirty yourself by dipping your feet into arcade battle waters doesn't make you a better person. Better pilot? Yeah, probably. A better person? No, sorry. You're living in Fantasyland if you think that's the case. But if you are playing arcade battle and you keep getting into situations like this, observe the I-15 swooping in from the right, desperately trying to ram the HE-111 in front of him, and then a friendly, and I do of course use the word friendly in the broadest possible sense of the word, friendly aircraft just swoops in out of nowhere and knocks me out of the sky when I'm trying to do something silly like actually shoot down an aircraft that's in front of me. That, unfortunately, is arcade battle for you, and to a lesser degree, it's realistic battle as well. Can you get mad about it? Well, of course you can. I've seen people get mad about far less things online, but should you get mad about it? Well, you know, it's a well-known fact that the angrier you get, the less like arseholes your team start to fly, right? No, of course not. And yet, of course, you know, I do recognise that sometimes you just can't help getting angry. Sometimes the sheer idiocy of what your team, or the enemy team, have just done just leaves you breathless with rage. And while I have had some stunning results flying consumed with rage, and I have the videos to prove it, that's the exception rather than the rule. Generally speaking, the only thing that happens if you continue playing a game while you're consumed with fury is you're going to suck and your blood pressure's going to go even higher. And so what I tend to do when I find myself in that kind of situation is I just bail. I exit the game. I go to the lobby, calm down, and if that means throwing the match, because, you know, no false modesty here, I am definitely no ace pilot, but I am probably better than most of the people I find myself matched up with in an arcade battle. That does probably mean that they're going to lose the match, and I don't care. Sorry, it's just an arcade battle. There'll be another one along in a minute. And I do realise that having just confessed to the mortal sin of leaving matches halfway through, that there are going to be people out there who think that makes me the lowest form of life on the internet. Well, newsflash for you too. I don't care. I know. I don't actually care. I do, believe it or not, value my own blood pressure over the moral integrity of some random guy on the internet that I don't know. And I am sorry, random internet guy, if that somehow makes you feel less important, but deal with it. So anyway, back to arcade battles, and the gross ineptitude of not just your team, but also the enemy. There are ways of dealing with it. You don't have to get angry. The situation that you saw me in earlier, in the CR-42 Falco on the tail of the HE-111, while it was not my fault that I got knocked out of the sky by one of my own teammates, there were steps I could have taken to ensure that I never got into that kind of situation where the chances of that happening are, well, almost 100%. It is, well, at least in my experience, a well-known fact that the single most dangerous place to be in a War Thunder arcade battle is on the tail of an enemy bomber, and it's not because of the enemy bomber, it's because of the cluster of idiots on the enemy bomber's tail who are trying to shoot him down or ram him and don't really care who gets in the way. Don't put yourself into that kind of situation. If you find yourself in a developing cluster on the tail of an enemy fighter or bomber, just get out of there. Get out of there and then pat yourself on the back when your name does not appear in the list of aircraft crashing into each other that are scrolling up in the combat messages because you got away from the developing cluster on the tail of that enemy fighter. Your doctor will thank you as well, because you will have lower blood pressure as a result. Next, head-on passes. Happens a lot, particularly at lower level, and it's rarely a good idea, but it's not always possible to avoid them. If this sort of situation develops, it is your responsibility to get out of the way. I've been in this situation a few times. I know that pea-shooter is going to make no effort whatsoever to avoid a collision. And while it's not true to say that the responsibility is all mine to ensure that a collision doesn't happen, but if I don't take some sort of responsibility to ensure a collision doesn't happen, then a collision is going to happen, because that guy... I do not know if this guy is incompetent, malicious, or just new at the game, but I do know that he is going to make no effort to get out of the way. And since I know that, it is down to me to make sure that I get out of the way, a mid-air collision doesn't happen, and I can continue flying without losing my temper over it. Of course, if you get flown into from the side and the rear, well, yeah, okay, you can have that one. There's not an awful lot you can do about that, but a mid-air collision resulting from a head-on pass is as much your fault as it is your opponent's. And I do recognise that sometimes getting into a head-on pass is the only way to go. Sometimes the enemy pilot is just determined that it is going to happen, and taking steps to avoid the head-on early is only going to put you into a more disadvantageous position, and sometimes you just have to grit your teeth, go for it, roll the dice, and hope that you're a better shot than he is. Or, you know, she is. I'm not being judgmental here. But generally speaking, head-on passes are a mug's game. It's one of those... You know, the single best place for you to be when engaged in a fight with an enemy fighter is on his tail. He can't shoot back at you, and you can shoot at him. So why would people deliberately choose to put themselves not only in the line of fire, but in the line of flight of an enemy aircraft when there are other options to choose from? And yet people choose to do it over and over and over, because War Thunder arcade battles. And when the shit does inevitably hit the fan, as it's going to at some point, well, watch this. Friendly plane, down there, on the right. I turn, try to loop around above him. He chooses that exact moment to pull up. He didn't see me there. It was probably 70% my fault, 30% his fault. So, I know this is going to sound strange to a lot of people. Apologise. See how easy that is? You've probably seen countless mid-air collision messages popping up in the battle chat during the course of this battle. How many times have you seen anybody apologise? It doesn't take a lot, does it? I mean, it's just a basic human courtesy, and yet you so rarely see it happen. And why not say so? I mean, apart from the fact that you're sitting there staring at the loading screen with nothing better to do with your time while your plane loads in anyway, it's basic human decency. And even from a selfish point of view, apologising to the guy that you just knocked out of the air is significantly going to reduce the chance that he's going to get mad and come after you looking for revenge. So, even from a selfish point of view, it's the right thing to do. And yes, I do recognise that campaigning for basic human decency in online gaming is the online equivalent of pissing into the wind, but that doesn't mean it's not worth doing. Take care, folks. I'll catch you next time.